Welcome back. This is Ready or Not
Money Talks. I'm Nate the Great.
I'm Chris Stacks. We're very excited to bring you this episode today. Nate, why don't you give them a quick recap of what we talked about last time before we even get into today, because it is so important.
Well, last time we talked about budgeting, which is very important to what we're talking about now, because it's the foundation to anything that you plan on doing in your financial future.
Okay, so before I do anything else, I got to know where I am, right?
Exactly. You have to have what you're making and what you're spending before you plan on doing anything else.
Love it, love it. So today, as you see on the board behind us, we're going to talk about the 50-30-20 rule. Now, with the 50-30-20 rule, just like creating a budget, am I doing that with pre-tax dollars? Am I doing that with post-tax dollars?
Post-tax dollars, always.
Got it. So after tax, and also they call it your take-home money. So when you look at your check from your job, and Uncle Sam already got his, that's your after-tax dollars. Now with the 50-30-20 rule, you're going to hear people all the time talk about, oh, I don't like it because of this, I don't like it because of that. Our goal is to keep it simple. We want to make sure that you guys have a basic, sound structure. Give them an example. How can we compare this to something else that's going on in your life?
So, I mean, like anything, like you said, this is going to be a basic structure and you work from there. So imagine you're starting a new job. They're going to teach you the basics. What you need to do for this situation, what they do for that situation. But what you do for that situation may be different. It depends on your needs and what happens in your life. Everything's different.
Well said, well said. So this is just, if you're already doing this, great, let's evolve on it later on. But if you don't have a plan yet, this is giving you that plan to work from. Perfect. So the 50%, this is a big number, right?
Oh yeah.
So the 50% is the needs. Now, needs are normally mortgage, rent, food, what else?
Utilities, insurances, any basic clothing.
Love it, love it. So let me ask Nate, needs, does my Xbox fall in that need category? Because I need to play Xbox, bro.
Well, I would agree with you there, but Xbox is only going to be a need if it's making you money, as if you're making money online.
But I'm a streamer.
It's streamer, but who's watching you?
Good point. See, so guys, we got to be direct with you as well. We want to give you the basics. We want to make sure that you go out and win, especially our millennials, especially our Gen Zers. You guys, we've got a raw deal as far as millennials and Gen Z. But if you're buying something, whether it's a laptop, a tablet, a game,
new TV,
if you're not making money with it, it's not an investment, it's not a business expense. You're trying to find an excuse to go spend money on yourself. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
So with the needs, as Nate said, the insurance, utilities, you have 50% of your budget towards that after tax. So that means if you're making, let's say you're making $50,000 after tax dollars. After tax.
Okay.
So after tax.
So $25,000 should be going to your needs.
25, give or take, but I'd say don't go above that.
Oh, definitely not.
And I understand that's not a ton of money, but we'll talk about that at the end. There is a breakdown of the needs though, where people will say, "Oh, well, let's spend 30% on our house, our mortgage, our rent." You can.
No more than that though.
But if I'm spending 30% out of 50%.
Out of the 50% we're giving you for the budget, then that only leaves you the other 20% for everything else.
So that's why you got to be smart about where you're living. That's why we talked in the last episode. So go watch it. We talked about in the last episode, people living together. We've heard some crazy stories, but you've got to do what you've got to do so you can get ahead. What did you say about sacrificing last time?
If you don't sacrifice for what you want is going to be the sacrifice.
Guys, that is perfect. I can't say it any better. And the next part, which is perfect that you just said that. What's the 30 number?
30% is your wants.
It's your wants. So what's wants, Nate?
Well, so we touched on earlier, electronics, laptops, TVs, Xboxes, any name brand clothing. So if you want Gucci, if you want Tiffany stuff, if you want Tom Hardy, vacations, if you want to go out to eat at restaurants, those are all wants. They're not things you need to do.
But I need food.
You need food, yes, absolutely. But you need to keep it down on your needs section, about 10 to 15% roughly.
Okay.
Grocery stores, cook for yourself. Now, not to say you can't go out, but you got to make sure it fits within that 30% wants structure.
So when we first sit with couples, we sit with a lot of couples, we always talk about you need to have a date night. It's gonna help your relationship. But structure it in. Maybe one time a month, maybe 2 times a month out of the date nights, you cook at home together. And guys, no offense to anybody, guys, that means you do help clean. You do help put the dishes away afterwards. It's not just, oh, honey, we're going to cook at home and then you're going to do everything. No, it's supposed to be bringing you together.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going out, be smart about where you're going. You know, don't go to an Abe and Louie's or what's that? The Brazilian steakhouse where it's, you know, $70 a person if you're on a budget.
At the same time, don't go to McDonald's either.
Yeah, you still
Yeah,
want good
feel
food.
like
You still
big
want
range.
quality food.
You wanted the ambiance as well.
Yep, but you want to be smart about what you're spending. Now the last one, and this is the one where I'm going to be a little bit aggressive with you guys. I kind of push back on the common speech on this one,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of people say out of your 50-30-20 rule, the 20% should be save, invest, and pay off debt. Now, we talked about this on budgeting, and we talk about this constantly with our clientele.
Mm-hmm.
The majority of people are in debt.
Oh yeah.
It's not like it's 5%.
Oh, it's over 50%.
Over 50% of people are in debt. I believe, actually, I looked it up after our last episode. It was 77% of people
77%
are in some type of
it.
debt. That's mind-blowing to me. 77% of the 331 million. And we're going to talk at the end about a way that you can help adjust that, and that's going to be our next episode. But savings, extremely important.
Yep.
And when you first start saving, what's the thing that we always talk about with people?
Emergency fund.
So how much should I have in an emergency fund, Nate?
So you should have at least 3 to 6 months in case anything happens. Now, with the way things are looking now, I would suggest going farther and having 9 months.
So when you say with what's going on right now, are you referring to, you know, the article?
The recession we're in right now that they're denying.
But also, we saw that article about CEOs. 50% of Fortune 500 CEOs saying they're looking at laying people off in the coming months.
Yep.
And then
A lot of them, the first ones being remote employees,
So-
which a lot of the country seems to have gone in that direction.
So, this
who is
whole
that?
thing about work from home might be just live from home and not have a work, right? But on top of
Work
that,
on yourself.
very true. Go work on yourself. I like that. And then the other side of it, when you're looking at that 6 to 9 months,
Yep.
you know, what happened if we had another pandemic?
Oh yeah, I mean, look at what happened the first pandemic. How many people ran out of money immediately and had to look at towards the government
Yep.
to give them money, and then where that got us now.
And with the amount of debt we have, with the inflation, they're understanding, I would hope that we can't just go that route. We can't just print money this time.
You would hope.
So you've got to be able to rely on yourself. Now, the second one that you always hear about in the 20 rule is invest. And invest, I'm going to come back to invest because it's going to get me upset. But the third part is pay off debt.
Mhm.
And there's a gentleman that's on TV, and there's a woman that you hear on YouTube all the time, and they're both talking about pay off your debt first. Make sure you go out and pay off your high interest rates. Make sure that you're doing the snowball method, so you know who I'm talking about. I'll be direct. But with that, do you think that if I have zero emergency funding, it's a smart idea for me just to continue? You know, let's say I got $20,000 in debt. I'm 30-something years old, and the average person they say has more than $20,000. But I got $20,000 in debt. I'm making $50,000 a year, so my take home is like 40.
Right.
And so that's not, what's that, 30-something $100 a month. So would you say that I don't have to worry about an emergency fund, do not care at all?
Oh no, definitely not. Like, you do need to pay off that debt. That's granted. That's a given. But you should always have, if you can't save up for 3 to 6 months, at least have $1,000 in there. For any rainy day, something happens immediately, you have that $1,000 set aside and put the rest towards your bills.
$1,000, guys, you heard it here. Nate the Great just said it. $1,000, why? Because that covers a pop tire. That covers your kid getting sick. That covers you getting sick. There's so many things that's going to cover for you. What's it going to do? It's take that ease off. Why is it an emergency fund? Because it's not something we're planning for.
Mm-hmm.
But if every time there's an emergency, you got to swipe the credit card because there's no cash in reserves, that's what the government looks like right now. How many people are sick of inflation? But if we continue to swipe it on a credit card and don't have anything in reserve, what happens? It just keeps getting worse and worse.
Keep building.
So with the pay off the debt, I agree 100%. Pay off your high interest rates. The one thing that I'll go against with them is a mortgage. If you got lucky enough to get a mortgage, you know, you might have overpaid, but if you got a mortgage or you refied, which for mortgage experts, refis for like what, 2 years
Mhm.
was their money. That was their bread and butter.
Oh yeah.
But if you got a refi at 2 or 3%, I'm not that worried about paying off that mortgage. Why? Because I can go put my money in VU, SPY, you know, the basic, this is not investment advice, in the basic, you know, ETFs, and I should be making at least 4 to 5%, maybe 6% on average. I know this year's terrible. There's a lot of things going into that. But if I'm making 5 or 6% and this is only costing me 3, last time I checked, that's a net profit, right?
Yeah.
So I want to go that route.
Absolutely.
And on the other side of that, we talked about investing, and I had to back off for a second, but now we're gonna bring the heat. So investing, what is the percentage that usually they're talking about putting into your investments? What's that number?
10%.
So 10%. You did rather well in high school. You're a rather smart guy. With numbers, you're extremely smart.
Mm-hmm.
So if I do 10%, I make $50,000. Going back to the same gentleman, $50,000 a year.
Take home 40.
Take home 40, and I'm investing 10%.
$4,000 a year.
And let's say I get the great returns of 7%. What's my retirement going to be like in 30 years?
Oof. I don't know. That's going to be
non-existent, right?
Non-existent, pretty much. Not even going to be able to keep up with inflation at that rate.
Right, which is funny because they just came out, and I'll find the article for you guys and I'll post it. They just came out and said, you know what? For the majority of you, why don't you just plan on working until 70 or 75? Millennials, do you want to work until 70 or 75?
I know I don't.
I know I'm crazy. I'm probably going to still work
maybe,
forever.
But I don't want to have to work until 70. That's the difference.
He took the words out of my mouth because I like building. I like working with people.
Yeah.
I like helping people. But I'm already at the point where I don't want to have to go to work because I have to.
Right.
I like going into work because I like helping more people today.
Oh, absolutely.
And if that's the opportunity, heck yes. But if I got to go to Walmart, Target, no offense to any of them, the bowling alley, whatever it is, to be able to go make my money to afford my bills, and I can't travel, I can't, spend time with my family.
In my twilight years, where I would think I've earned it at that point.
But obviously, if you're only able to put away 10%, either you need to readjust that 50-30-20 rule. You got to be serious about what you're spending. We talked about the clothes, we talked about the electronics, but 10% is not going to be enough. 3% into your 401k with a match is not going to be enough. I bet you if you go look at your 401k right now, exactly.
Especially the way things are going now, people are losing 20, 30, 40%.
I think if we wanted to do a different skit, we could do an entire 401k skit, and people would think that we're doing a comedy skit. We're like competing with Joe Coy over here, just talking about people's finances right now. So if your only goal right now is I'm putting 3% into my 401k and they're matching me, I bet you're negative for the year. If not, you're right even. Even is not going to get you to retirement. Let's be serious. Mm-hmm. So you have to figure out a way to be able to put away more money. So a quick recap, budget first. That's
budget first.
Number one.
Foundation.
Number 2, figure out what your needs are, but be realistic on your needs. Streaming services, not needs.
Not a need.
Xbox, unless you're making money off it, not need. So if it's not a business related item, it's not a need.
Brand name clothing,
not a need.
Fancy cars, luxury items.
Right on. We live in Boca.
Yeah.
I mean, how many fancy cars do you see here?
Oh, I couldn't even tell you. Pretty much all of them.
Everywhere you go.
Yep.
But for the majority of people, it's not even for the people that have it, it's not a need. That's something where I've already gotten to a certain point. Now I have it.
Which, we're not telling you not to get them. Make sure it's part of one. It's in your wants budget.
Yes.
It's not part of your needs, because it's not a need to have that extra to get the Audi, to get the Lexus, to get the Mercedes, when you can get a Toyota, a Ford, or a Mazda.
I love my Mazda. I mean, I'm about to upgrade, but I got my Mazda for a point. I got my Mazda so I could put money away. Now that Mandy and I are at the point where we're comfortable, we're beyond comfortable, I'm looking at upgrading. But did I make the sacrifice in the beginning to get what I wanted? Absolutely. Are you willing to do that? Now, to close this out, we've talked about constantly lately that millennials, they're saying 3 million to retire. And if you look at the 4% rule, or we'll round up to the 5% rule, depending on what you're using, obviously. If you got 3 million in retirement, that means you get to live on $150,000 a year, depending on where you have that money.
Right.
So today, $150,000 is half of what the old $100,000 was. Because today you got about $337 of the same lifestyle. So at $150,000 in 30 years for a millennial.
What is that going to be? What's that going to look like?
With inflation, with taxes, is that going to be a great lifestyle? Or is that going to feel like you're making $50K today?
Right.
So we've got to look at it from multiple aspects of, is $3 million going to be enough? But if you're on pace right now where you got, you're 30 and you got $3,000 in retirement, and that's your 401k, you need to look at other options.
I mean, just think about it. My father growing up would tell me that he needed $1 million to retire.
Yep.
And $1 million to 1.5 comfortably the way they live. And now for us, 3 million, that's just what they say now.
Yep.
What are they going to say?
How old's your dad?
My dad's 61.
61. So your dad's approaching the retirement years.
Yep.
The normal retirement years, but by the time we're there, they're probably going to say it's 75. But the normal retirement years of 65-ish, your dad said 1 to 1.5 million, and your dad's a smart guy. So if that was 1 to 1.5, and now we're saying a minimum of 3, what do we have to be doing and how much earlier?
Do we have to start? Of course,
That's,
gotta give it time to compound.
Yeah. It's like going to the gym. There's so many things that you can compare it to. But what I'm going to challenge you guys, and we're going to talk about this on the next episode, is if you're not saving, if you don't have this 50-30-20 rule, break it down. Feel free to send us and say, hey, I broke it down. This is what I came up with. Happy to look at it for you. You can email us. You can send us a message on here on our Instagrams. But more importantly, if you're working one job right now, and I know we talk about work-life balance. I'm sure this is going to be an episode. Work-life balance doesn't work for most people. Work-life balance is overrated because a lot of people are going to tell you, you got to have time for yourself. You got to have this. You got to have that. That's great. Don't expect to have everything unless mommy and daddy are giving it to you if you're not putting the effort in to get there. Oh, well, LeBron James has been working harder than you since he was like 5. Well, Tiger Woods was being yelled at by his dad at 4 years old on how to swing a perfect club.
Mm-hmm.
So don't look at these people and say, oh, well, they're living this lifestyle. They've sacrificed more than you could ever think of. Wasn't it LeBron James that didn't go to his prom? He was supposed to be the prom king and didn't go because of the fact that he had a game.
I mean, I believe it.
That's quote unquote sacrifice, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've heard a number of athletes, and I had friends that actually missed, homecoming in college and all these other things.
I mean, even outside of athletes, a lot of musicians that miss like lots of events in their life because they're on gigs, they're practicing, they're trying to get big, and the only way to do it is to make the sacrifices.
So make sure when you're comparing to people that are in your shoes. We live in Boca. I promise you go to my office, you see literally 10, 15 cars that are all over $200,000.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're comparing yourself to them saying, I want that, you have to now go ask them, and this is all I'll challenge you to do. Go ask them, what do you do? When did you start working hard? When did you start doing, how many hours would you say you did?
And how can I get there?
And how can I get there? Most of those people are gonna say, I started with a side hustle. Most of those people are gonna say, I worked 60, 70, 80 hours, and now I'm driving, the Audi i8, the Ferrari, the Mercedes, the Lamborghini Urus. But they had to get there. Are you willing to put in the effort so this needs, wants, and invest fits how you want it versus what you can?
Right.
So next episode, I already threw it out there. Nate, what's the next episode going to be on?
Side hustles.
Side hustles. Do you have one, and why should you? And guys, I'm going to go in. He's going to go in on you because we want to see you win.
Mm-hmm.
We want to see you understand money, be able to talk about money comfortably, and be able to live the lifestyle that you want versus the one that's given to you.
Mm-hmm.
Until next time, I'm Chris Stax.
I'm Nate the Great.
And this is Money
Money
Talks.
Talks.